Hey Nature Detectives, I'm Conrad. I'm an outdoor educator with the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation at Letchworth State Park, and today I have a nature mystery for you. I saw a big old bee fly out of a wooden fence post, and I think we can use some nature tools to figure out what kind of bee this is and how it helps us every single day. Being that it's some kind of bee, I think we'll just use one nature tool today, and that's our eyes. The bee is safely inside the scientific jar of science. The first thing that a lot of people notice about this bee is its size and shape. You see how great, big, and fat this bee is? It's a big, beautiful insect. And it really stands out to a lot of folks. You might see these kinds of bees hanging out around the edges of old fences or by the top of somebody's roof, especially right under the gutter where it tends to be a lot of moisture and the wood rots faster. These bees are really commonly seen flying around people's gutters and fences. One of the first things they notice right away is how big and fat they are. Looking just a little bit closer, something else that people notice is all the fuzz on its body. Now this is closer than I would recommend getting to a bee that's free to fly around, but do you see how much wonderful fuzz there is on this bee? Its mouth parts are really short. It doesn't have a long proboscis like a butterfly, so to drink from flowers, this bee has to get right up in there and get lots of pollen on it. This kind of bee is a great pollinator because of all that fuzz. But do you notice that the fuzz doesn't extend all the way down the abdomen? The abdomen looks pretty smooth and shiny and pretty black, pretty dark black. Let's put all those nature clues together. We have a great big beautiful bee with a shiny black abdomen. This must be a carpenter bee. Carpenter bee is kind of an obscure, unknown name to a lot of people. A lot of people, when they see a bee like this, they say, bumblebee, gotta be a bumblebee. But bumblebees have at least a little bit of yellow on their abdomens because this one's abdomen is all black with no yellow, not even one stripe. This has got to be a carpenter bee. Another super obvious clue is that it's crawling out of rotten wood. Carpenter bees are known for their ability to cut into rotting wood. That makes them kind of unusual in bee world. Most bees do not make their nests in rotting wood. These bees are also unique because they don't live in great big communal hives. Like honeybees have one queen and she's surrounded by her daughters which do her work and a few males which will help to breed the next queen that comes along. But carpenter bees don't live in great big hives ruled by a queen. They live pretty much on their own. Sometimes you'll get a couple of them teaming up. If there's a really rotten stump or something, you'll see a few carpenter bees using that same stump. But they don't have a great big hive that they'll all work together for. These bees are pretty much on their own. They do depend on nectar from flowers to live. They are terrific pollinators because of all that fuzz, especially on the middle parts of their bodies, their thorax. But sometimes they're an unwelcome sight to a lot of people. They think they're a pest and they want to get rid of them. These bees are very beneficial in a lot of ways, and some people, their first instinct is to spray and get rid of these bees, spray chemicals, pesticides, and kill these bees. Now, I'm not here to tell anybody what to do, but if it were me, I wouldn't want to spray a whole bunch of pesticides and kill beneficial pollinators, including these bees and a lot of other kinds of bees, wasps, ants, butterflies, maybe even hummingbirds could be affected by spraying pesticides around our homes. The best cure, and I know nobody's going to want to do this, I wouldn't want to, is to paint any wood that's starting to rot around our homes or fences or especially along gutters where all the moisture builds up, or even better, and this is even more labor intensive and expensive, to replace the rotting wood so there isn't rotten wood for these bees to find in the first place. Now I know those sound really expensive, but they're the best ways to keep carpenter bees out of your business. These bees, like we say, don't work in a communal hive, so if you spray and kill 1,000 carpenter bees, there are millions of others around your neighborhood looking to get into that same real estate. And they'll say, oh, all the carpenter bees trying to get in here are dead. And they're going to move in and they're going to do some damage. The damage that they do isn't as severe as some people might think. They see a great big bee like this with big honking chompers that they'll use to burrow into some wood to lay their eggs, but they only need to get about this far into the wood, and the hole that they leave is only bee size. They don't want to make it great big so that parasitoids or predators can find the hole. the predators that do find the holes sometimes are the ones that really do the damage. When these bees' eggs hatch, they hatch into a caterpillar-like grub state, a larva, that is just delicious and full of fats for predators, especially woodpeckers, to eat. Some other kinds of wasps and flies will also lay their eggs on those little caterpillars. But the woodpeckers will do serious damage if they find a nest of a carpenter bee. They'll peck open that rotten wood and throw the wood chips everywhere and leave a great big ugly hole, whereas before the carpenter bee would just cut a beautiful, really sharp bee-sized hole. These carpenter bees, although they can sting, they are not aggressive at all. You can walk among them without fear, unless you start swatting them and breaking their bodies open and releasing all kinds of scary chemicals that they'll react to. These carpenter bees won't react to you being there. So don't worry if you suddenly see one in Letchworth State Park. Now, if you want to have an adventure, go try to find some carpenter bees in your neighborhood. Unfortunately, it might be pretty easy for you, especially if there are rotting fences or rotting buildings, that you might notice these carpenter bees around. Look at the top edges of roofs on buildings and look around any old fences, like in Letchworth State Park. If you really want to put your nature detective skills to the test, come try to find these carpenter bees in Letchworth State Park. You'll notice that the bees will be happily laying their eggs in a couple of fences or old wooden structures, and if you don't go up and try to grab them, they won't come after you. We have absolutely nothing to fear from these big, beautiful, helpful pollinators. Well, thank you so much for joining me for today's Nature Mystery. If you have any questions about bumblebees or carpenter bees or other kinds of bees that live in New York State, please put a comment in the comment section below the video. Share this video with your friends to put their nature detective skills to the test. And as always, like Letchworth State Park's Facebook page to stay tuned for more nature mysteries.